as we have this solar energy coming in, and I know that there's potential for it. I know there's a dark side application to the power of the mind, but also a lighter side, but we lack organization, we lack faith, we lack strength, we lack numbers, we lack community, we lack organization. Right here, right now, we need to stop that. We need to change that. We need to do something at bare minimum to keep our own sanity, because we're sinking, folks, in an energetic sea of quicksand. We're no longer in the days of Dion Fortune. We're in the days of yours truly, with new powerful technologies that Adolf Hitler could only dream of. So right here, right now, on my YouTube channel, which will be going out to anybody at all, in this part of the country, on that part of the country, like they're not on my newsletter. They're random people. So hey, people out there, hello, knock knock, who's there? Do you understand that you can affect this reality with your thoughts? Yes? Yeah, nod your head, yes. Good. Good. Now do you understand why there's propaganda? To get us to focus on certain symbols, to get us to focus on certain outcomes, to get us to focus on certain fears. They want to redirect our energy, and they're catching it, and we need to pull it back. So what do we do with it? What do we do with it? Because you need to do something with it, because that's how people keep getting routed back into fake movements and black holes, like voids, you know, where they just catch the energy and they neutralize that human energy into nothingness. That's what they do with their fake movements. So what are we going to create? Because we're obviously not in the same place on the planet, and we're obviously fucked, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to talking to your average person about telekinesis or synchronized meditations. They're allergic to it. They think it's all witchery. And then when you try to deal with people that are, like, you know, saying that they're witches, they seem to have their own self-interest. They're not really trying to save anybody. And they're on, like, a different path than whatever it is that I'm talking about. So we do have the power to pray. For example, we will right now, for the people in detention centers, as we give them energy. It's not that it's necessarily required for us to do that. It's that it's a good exercise to start with. I did Vipassana when I was younger. Don't really do it on a regular basis, but it has immense value. And it's a form of Indian meditation that's based in observing the breath. And I went on a retreat back in 2002 when I lived in the Portland, Oregon area. I'm trying to keep my train of thought here. I'm walking out in nature. The goal of Vipassana is to be able to observe reality as it is, to be able to be neutral without reacting. Anyways, that's a good place to start. I'll have more to talk about it later. But people need to progress to other types of meditation, grounding, shielding, that sort of a thing. So I'm suggesting that this energy coming in right now can be redirected and harnessed, retransmuted towards the proper magical practices, right? Dion Fortune used the rose and the cross. I have a friend who adds in her 2 cents here and there, and she suggests like the creation of a new symbol that doesn't have the energetic residue of what they were involved with. And she was involved with, you know, the Order of the Golden Dawn. She was involved with Crowley. And there's controversy regarding some of her writings. And then there are some people that interpret her message in her own work as being don't follow in these footsteps. And she did actually die after World War II of kidney failure or leukemia, something like that. So who knows what that was all about. But I think that there are principles within the magical battle of Britain that we can learn, right? So the idea of people praying, the idea of people sending energy, the idea of people at the same time putting their focus and attention on certain individuals, right? And I'm certainly not talking about anything illegal or immoral, but this is something that the real establishment is threatened by. We are dealing with spiritual warfare, but I'm not coming to you from the Orthodox perspective And while they might reject a lot of my ideas, especially talks of meditation and going outside of the box of just looking to Jesus, I see value in some Christian literature. I've looked at a lot of it. Literature from exorcists, for example. And they came to really test their politics. And the way one author was talking about the Palestinians for, quote, not being Christian, how they brought it on themselves, yada, yada. The point here is we need to have discernment when we're looking for information to, in some cases, look beyond the verbal diarrhea of someone's politics. When we're looking at other aspects of their work. So when it comes to spiritual warfare, I mean, there are ways in which I'm in agreement with Christians. And I actually take it a bit deeper. I would say that a lot of them right now are possessed, however, and are not dealing with the real Jesus, but a thought form. What we're dealing with are thought forms. And there needs to be some sort of focused, meditative, intuitive action to looking at what's going on and then where our energy is needed. That's the main thing before I, claim to have all of the answers as to what we do. The first step is to realize that we have power and that we have to build that power. And then we have to ground and center, and then back to the reference to Vipassana, to quiet the mind, to empty the mind. That's its own training. That goes on for years and years and years, but it's not enough. We have to learn to project. This is the proper time for us to do this. Then we can start getting specific as to what we do with it, but it is misused already. It's being misused right now through social media, through the way in which they make certain things trend, right? So that people will latch onto it and then, be influenced by it. Essentially, we're dealing with the calls for street violence through the internet and politicians and the media. Not all the media, but enough of it. At minimum, I believe that if we can't save the nation, and right now, there's too many problem children in this nation to save. So my former ideas on this, you could say, have been upgraded. But I do believe that certain areas, if there are moral people within them, and these are the ideas that I've absorbed from Sufi realities, it's about a region's morality. If a region lacks morality, if a region is full of sin, and, I would describe that in my own specific way. If there's a lot of people killing people there, if there's a lot of abusive women there, those are the main themes, along with, abuse of substances that open up doorways. Not to sound judgmental, I've done it myself. That's how I know. I'm from Portland. I've seen what it's done to others. So certain regions that have a certain energetic decay or deficit, they're in a frequency deficit. Instead of moving forward, they're in a deficit energetically. That's bad luck. That's bad energy. That attracts demons. So there's ramifications for that down the line, even if many people don't believe that. So we want to bring protection to ourselves and our communities where possible. It's going to be difficult if the people in our community are completely opposed to raising their frequency. That's kind of how I feel right now. I'm not in the right community where there is any collective energy work being done. So I'm not living the model, all right? I'm not living the model now of what should be or what could be. What I am is I'm talking about it so that you can learn. Now, if Nextdoor wasn't so nefarious, through Nextdoor, I could get people to pray together at the same time and not be political, not be controversial. And I can basically have them eating out of my hand, especially if I tailor my language via the prayer to be more Orthodox Christian-like. Oh, dear Jesus, oh, dear God in the sky, please protect us no matter what, from friend or foe, from up or down, from left or right. Please bring justice, and please, you can bring that in, but when you get real big, I noticed on, please bring the kidnappers to justice, and you start getting a little bit more literal. Then people start looking around going, well, who's he talking about? And then nefarious saying, I will step in and go, excuse me, no politics. Isn't it funny that you thought I was being political when I was talking about kidnapping? How do you like those apples? I was just saying, you know. So there is the potential for us to kind of like lead with a carrot stick those around us on social media towards some sort of spiritual work, but if it's not centered, if they're not centered, if they're still mentally ill, that human mental energy may not be very effective. And there may be unintended consequences of the doorway opening of meditation and connecting with other people's minds, you know, because there is some major disadvantages of the hive mind. Okay, so these are ideas that I'm putting out there for other people that are going to be listening now that know about the power of the mind more than I. And the power of the heart, the electromagnetic energy of the heart. And so I believe that we need to learn about the solar flares so we can transmute the energy and avert negative health outcomes, which includes heart attacks, right? So I'm not going to look at the sun with fear, even though I know that it is connected with heart attacks in some people, especially at older age. I'm going to look at it as an energizer, and right now as I walk, right, and I exercise, although I'm not doing enough in the last couple of weeks, but I am walking, we need to transmute that into something so we don't create a blockage, so we don't end up inactive. You know, we need to do something with that energy, either intellectually, spiritually, or otherwise. And, you know, that's what my gut instinct is on how to avert the negative physical and mental complications. You know, we give birth to a lot of things in this world with the power of our mind. We just don't know it. So we can send protection collectively. This is not a new subject. What is new for some people is harnessing the power of the sun or the geomagnetic storms, that sort of a thing. And that's the idea. And so think about that in our final thoughts here in this short podcast that'll be posted on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a comment. And when we get into stuff that's specific, stuff that's meant to really have an impact, some of it shouldn't be out there on the internet for everybody to read and surveil, including AI. You know, it's really actually going to have to be old school, where you have people that are receiving letters via the mail, so somebody would have to have an office somewhere, and they would send out the letters regarding the meditation, what people were to focus on to bring about a certain effect, and it wouldn't be monitored by artificial intelligence. Basic meditation is to breathe in, take in the energy in the atmosphere from the sun, that which is coming in from the solar rain, from the geomagnetic storms, from all of that, to breathe it in to the solar plexus, you know, of course, to use certain breathing techniques, rhythmic breathing techniques with holding and pausing and so on and so forth. Holding it in, breathing it out, and sealing all potential leaks in our aura, which may come and go based on what we go through in this world. Trauma can cause leakage, and we are going through a lot of trauma. So we have to deal with ongoing spiritual hygiene, next to grounding, next to shielding, next to other things. There's a lot of references in Dion Fortune's book regarding calling out to the masters of the inner planes. It is an interesting subject. Outside here, it is warm, it is heating up, and those days after geomagnetic activity or mornings are periods in which there's more energy in the air. So just being outside under the sun during periods of increased geomagnetic activity, I think is providing a certain amount of energy that can be redirected for something. See, I don't think that this is a sin. And I don't think that this is about replacing God. I think this is actually what God wants. God wants to see his children be the best that they can be, right? And take in the blessings of the sun instead of take the sun for granted. And that's basically what a lot of people on the dark side have done. Subscribe if you're new, leave a comment, and we will continue this discussion soon.